When you think of a sloth, you probably picture a small, slow-moving creature hanging quietly from a tree branch. But tens of thousands of years ago, Earth was home to a very different kind of sloth. It didn't live in trees. It wasn't small. And it certainly wasn't weak. Its name was Megatherium, meaning great beast. Measuring around 6 meters long and weighing nearly 4 tons, it could rival a modern elephant in size. When it stood upright on its powerful hind legs, Megatherium looked like a living wall of muscle and claws. Although it was a plant eater, it was still strong enough to make Ice Age predators think twice. And the story of this giant will take us back to a wild South America, where some of the strangest creatures to ever walk the earth once roamed. Megatherium was an extinct genus of giant ground sloth that once lived in South America during the age of enormous mammals. Its most famous species was Megatherium americanum, a creature so massive that it can be hard for modern people to believe it was a distant relative of today's sloths. The name Megatherium comes from Greek, meaning great beast. And it fully deserved that name. Unlike the small sloths we know today, hanging quietly from tree branches, Megatherium moved across the ground with a body that weighed several tons. It once wandered through the grasslands, savannas, and shrublands of ancient South America. From the vast pampas of Argentina to regions near Patagonia and Bolivia, Megatherium fossils show that it was once an icon of the continent. In that prehistoric world, Megatherium was not a predator, but it was still one of the creatures that made the entire landscape seem small. When people hear the word sloth, very few would imagine a creature that could grow up to 6 meters long. Megatherium americanum was not just a slightly larger version of the modern sloth. It was a true giant, with an estimated weight of around 3.7 to 4 tons. That made it comparable in size to a fully grown Asian elephant. As Megatherium moved across the ground, each step carried the weight of a massive biological machine. A grown human standing beside it would have seemed astonishingly small. And when Megatherium rose up on its powerful hind legs, its height became even more impressive. Its shadow could have stretched across the ground like a living wall. In the prehistoric world of South America, this was not just a sloth. It was one of the most overwhelming giant mammals to ever walk the continent. Megatherium's body was a strange combination of strength, stability, and adaptation. Its head was relatively small compared to its enormous body, but its snout was highly effective for feeding. Scientists believe Megatherium may have had a flexible upper lip, similar to that of a modern black rhinoceros, allowing it to pull in leaves and carefully select its food. Its teeth were unlike those of most plant-eating mammals. They had no enamel, grew continuously, and featured sharp ridges that helped slice through leaves, young branches, and tough vegetation. Its 2 front limbs carried massive claws, which could be used to pull down branches, or become defensive weapons when needed. Its powerful hind legs and large tail helped support its body when it rose upright. Megatherium was not built for speed. It was built to stand firm, reach high, feed powerfully, and survive in a world filled with giants. Looking at Megatherium's enormous claws, many people might assume it was a meat-eating monster. But the truth is far more surprising. Megatherium was mainly a plant-eating animal. Its diet may have included leaves, young branches, fruits, and shrubs that grew across the open landscapes of ancient South America. With a body weighing several tons, it had no need to climb trees like modern sloths. Instead, Megatherium could rise up on its powerful hind legs, using its large tail for balance, and reach toward the higher canopy. Its strong front limbs helped it pull branches down toward its mouth. Meanwhile, its flexible upper lip may have allowed it to choose and grasp food with precision. It was not the nightmare of small prey animals. Megatherium was a giant leaf eater, slowly turning the ancient treetops into a feast of its own. Megatherium may not have been a predator, but that doesn't mean it was harmless. With a body weighing nearly 4 tons, its sheer size alone was a terrifying form of defense. A fully grown Megatherium was probably not an easy target for any Ice Age predator. Animals like Smilodon may have been dangerous, but attacking a giant like Megatherium would have been a life-or-death gamble. When threatened, Megatherium could rise up on its hind legs, using its massive tail for balance. In that position, it became taller, more intimidating, and ready to defend itself with its incredibly powerful front limbs. The same claws it used to pull down branches could quickly become formidable defensive weapons. So Megatherium was not a bloodthirsty monster. It was more like a gentle giant. But in the prehistoric world, if you angered that giant, the price could be very high. To understand Megatherium, we have to imagine Ice Age South America as a world very different from the one we know today. It was a vast land, drier than it is now, filled with open grasslands, low shrubs, and scattered patches of woodland. On the ancient pampas, Megatherium did not live alone. Around it existed an entire world of strange giant mammals. Glyptodon moved like a living tank, its body protected by a rounded shell of armor. Toxodon looked like a bizarre rhinoceros, heavily built and wandering through the lowlands. Macrauchenia had an almost unbelievable appearance, with a long neck and a body that resembled an ancient camel. And somewhere in the shadows, Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat, may have been watching for its next prey. On this wild prehistoric stage, Megatherium appeared as a slow but powerful giant. It did not need to dominate through speed. Its mere presence was enough to make the world around it keep its distance. The scientific story of Megatherium began in 1787, on the banks of the Luján River in what is now Argentina. There, people discovered a strange giant skeleton, so large that it did not resemble any familiar animal. The fossil remains were later shipped to Spain in several large crates. When the skeleton was assembled for display, it immediately astonished European scholars. But the real turning point came when the anatomist Georges Cuvier studied drawings of the specimen. Using comparative anatomy, Cuvier realized that this was not an elephant, a rhinoceros, or some mythical beast. It was an extinct giant sloth. This conclusion was shocking, because it proved that Earth had once been home to enormous creatures that no longer existed. In 1796, the name Megatherium americanum was given to it. From that point on, Megatherium became one of the earliest icons of paleontology. Toward the end of the Ice Age, Megatherium encountered a new creature that had arrived on the American continent: humans. It was a meeting that may have changed the fate of this giant forever. As humans entered South America, they stepped into a world filled with giant mammals unlike anything they had ever seen. Megatherium, with its body weighing several tons, was certainly not an easy prey animal. But humans did not need the strength of a predator. They had intelligence, stone tools, teamwork, and patience. Some archaeological sites show Megatherium bones with traces linked to hunting or butchering. This does not mean humans were the only reason Megatherium went extinct. Climate change and shrinking habitats may also have contributed to the tragedy. But when humans and Megatherium met, it may have marked the beginning of the final chapter for an Ice Age icon. Around 12,000 years ago, Megatherium's footprints gradually disappeared from the lands of South America. And it did not vanish alone. Around the same time, many other giant mammals across the Americas were also reaching their end. Grasslands changed, the climate shifted, and familiar habitats began to shrink. For a massive creature like Megatherium, which needed huge amounts of food, every change in nature could become a pressure on survival. The arrival of humans may have made that pressure even heavier. Even if humans hunted only a small number of them, they could still have had a major impact on animals that reproduced slowly and lived long lives. So the extinction of Megatherium probably did not come from a single cause. It was the result of many factors happening at once, including climate change, environmental transformation, and pressure from humans. When Megatherium disappeared, South America lost one of the most magnificent icons of the Ice Age. And the world lost a giant leaf-eater unlike any creature still alive today. Megatherium was not just a giant sloth in paleontology books. It was proof that Earth's past was far stranger and more majestic than we often imagine. From an animal related to the small sloths of today, evolution created a creature 6 meters long and weighing nearly 4 tons. It did not need sharp fangs to be frightening. It did not need speed to survive. With its size, strength, claws, and ability to adapt, Megatherium became an icon of Ice Age South America. But then, like so many other giants, it vanished from the world. All that remains are fossilized bones, archaeological traces, and questions that still have no complete answers. If Megatherium still existed today, perhaps we would look at sloths in a very different way. And when we think of it, we remember more than just an extinct creature. We remember an entire lost world.